I have a question for you. When was the last time you faced a struggle? When was the last time you faced a problem? And how did you face it? Were you asking questions where you're saying, how can I do this? How can I pay for this? How can I do this? I can't do this on my own. Will I know anybody going into this new place? We've all been in a place where something happens and we have a choice to make. We can either choose to ask questions or we can choose to trust God's plan. So this is the story that I want to get into, is how do we overcome the giants? How can we look past the giants into the land of blessing? In Numbers chapter 13, we see Moses, and he's sending out scouts to scout the promised land that they're planning to go into. So he sends out spies to go into the land. And we'll continue in 13:25. After exploring the land for 40 days, the men returned to Moses, Aaron, and the whole community of Israel at Kadesh, in the wilderness of Paran. They reported to the whole community what they have seen and showed them the fruit they had taken from the land. This was their report to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore, and it indeed was a beautiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey. Here is the kind of fruit it produced. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants, the descendants of Anak. The Amalekites live in the Negev, and the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. The Canaanites live among the coasts of the Mediterranean Sea, along the Jordan Valley. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as he stood before Moses. Let's all go at once and take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. So here, they saw the land, they saw the promised land. This is the land that God had promised to the Israelites that will be theirs. And they saw all this beautiful, they saw these massive fruits. They saw a land flowing of milk and honey. They saw all this beautiful land. This was their promised land. They saw the land of blessing. But there was a trick. There was giants in the land. And Caleb and Joshua, they saw the land and saw the giants, and they said, no, there may be giants, but we can defeat the giants with God on our side. But the rest of them, they said no, because the giants are too big. They were asking questions. How do we defeat the giants? We're too small. We look insignificant. We'll continue in verse 31. But the other men who had spoiled the land with them disagreed. We can't go up against them. They are stronger than we are. They spread this bad report about the land to the Israelites. The land we traveled to and explored will devour anyone who gives to live there. All the people we saw there were huge. We even saw giants. They were descendants of Anak. Next to them we felt like grasshoppers, and that's what they thought too. They were so worried about the giants, the struggles. How can we defeat the giants? How can we get to the land of promise when there's giants in the land? So this leaves us with a point, is we see the promised land and we see the giants. Are we willing to face the giants, knowing God can defeat the giants, or are we too afraid of the giants? Why we're too worried about asking questions. How do we defeat the giants? About a year ago, I was a senior in high school, and I was looking for a college. I needed somewhere to go to get my preaching credentials to later become a pastor. So I was looking for a college, and I was asking these questions. How do I pay for it? How will I know the people there? Right. I was so worried about where to go to college and how I was going to do it. But then I decided, no, I'm going to give it to God. Right? So I went on a 3-day fast, and I fasted and I prayed about it. Lord, help me to provide for this. Help me to know the people there. And I was at a youth group I was going to. This was the last day of the fast, the third day. It was a Sunday, and I went to youth group as I usually did. And the pastor there, he told me that I could get into Champion Leadership Academy for 1 year completely free because I was a senior. And so this was the answer prayer, right? I was able to pay for it now. I had a place to go, and I knew that some of the people there. And even now that I'm in Champion, I know many of the people there, and I've gotten to meet even more people, and they're all great people. So I could have worried. I could have kept being like, how will I pay for this? And that opportunity wouldn't have came. But instead, I decided to press into God and give it to God, trust in Him to defeat the giants. And He did. He came through. And there's a story in the Bible, actually, about a boy who defeated a giant. You probably already know this story. It's in 1 Samuel chapter 17, and it's the story of David and Goliath. So in verses 1 through 8 is the Israelites and the Philistines. They're on two sides of the hill with a valley in between them. And they were going to go to war. But before they went to war, Goliath, a Philistine giant, came down. He was over 9 feet tall, and he challenged the Israelites. In verse 8, Goliath stood and shouted a taunt to the Israelites. "Why are you all coming to fight?" he called. "I am a Philistine champion, but you are only servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down here and fight me. If he kills me, then we will be your slaves, but if I kill him, you will be our slaves." And so at this, the Israelites are terrified. They're asking the same questions they asked in Numbers 13. How will we defeat this giant? He's bigger than us. He's stronger than us. He's more powerful than us. We cannot defeat him. But then, if you know this story, you know what happens, is David, a young boy, probably about 13, maybe 16 years old, from the house of Jesse. He comes down, he's a shepherd boy, and he knows that God has been with him. In fact, he's defeated before lions and bears who tried to attack his sheep. And every time God helped him to overcome, he helped him to fight the lions and the bears to protect his flock. And when he came down and he heard the Philistine Goliath taunt this to the Israelites, he said in verse 26, David asked the soldier standing nearby, "What will a man get for killing this Philistine and ending his defiance of Israel? Who is this pagan Philistine, anyway, that he is allowed to defy the armies of the living God?" You see, the Israelites, they were asking questions. They were saying, how can I defeat the giant? But David, he asked a different question. He said, who is this Philistine that thinks he's bigger than my God? You see, you can look at your problem and you have two options. You can either choose to ask questions about the problem or acknowledge God is bigger than your problem. And so after David says that, he goes to King Saul, and he says, I will defeat Goliath. And after a bit of debate, they end up agreeing for David to go fight Goliath. So David, he grabs 5 stones and he grabs his sling. This was the sling he would use to fight off the lions and the bears. And he came down to the Philistine, and they went into a 1v1. But the difference is, Goliath, he's twice the size of David. He's bigger than David. He's stronger than David. But David came, and he was not afraid. Though Goliath shouted taunts to him, "Are you a dog that you come at me with sticks and stones?" But David wasn't afraid of Goliath because he knew the God he had with him. So David, he took his sling and he slung a stone right into Goliath's forehead, killing the giant. You see, we have two choices. We can be afraid of the giant and run away. We can ask questions, or we can realize we have a God on our side that can defeat the giants. So this is my encouragement to you today. Trust in the God of heaven's armies. Trust that he is with you, and trust that he can defeat any giant in your way, that he can defeat any obstacle in your way, that you don't have to fear the danger. You don't have to fear the giants, that you have a God that can conquer it all. So thank you all so much for watching. There's going to be a video pops up. If you want to watch that video, go right ahead. And thank you for watching. If you like this video, give me a like. And if you loved it, why not subscribe and watch some more? So thank you so much for watching. God bless.